Well, today they certainly appeared to be afraid of somebody. They certainly appeared to be afraid of a team that wasn't the Ravens. It wasn't the Chiefs. It wasn't one of the big bad bullies on the street. Had you gone into a coma at the end of last season, woke up tonight, and I told you, yeah, the Bengals got pushed around in week one. They got beat up. A running back barreled through them. You would say, oh, was it Saquon Barkley? I know you're playing the NFC East this year. Did Saquon come in with the Eagles? The Eagles always are tough in the trenches. Was it the Cowboys? They're always good on the offensive line. Was it Baltimore? What happened? Did Pittsburgh come in? Did TJ Watt and Cam Hayward have one of their signature games? No, it was none of those teams if you're just paying attention to what's going on this year. It was the New England Patriots, a team that for most of my lifetime has been synonymous with greatness. But right now they're not. Right now they had the number 3 overall pick a few months ago in this year's draft. Right now they are a team that has failed to find their identity since Tom Brady left and went to Tampa Bay. Right now, I don't know that I could have named 7 players for them coming into today's game. They are not a star-loaded team. They're not a terrible team, as we saw today. They've got a good culture. They've got a lot of good journeyman guys, but they are not a team that should go into a Super Bowl contender's house in week one and just push them around. There was a game where really, I think the Bengals lose 16-10 to New England. I think it was worse than that. A lot of times you say, oh, it wasn't as close as the score indicated. This one was worse than the score indicated because of how the Bengals just got pushed around. That is not typically in the AFC North, you build a team that does that to the other divisions. That was not the case on Sunday, and it was ugly. Bengals start the season 0-1. You are in the jungle. Welcome in. I'm Matt Edwards. It's going to be a fun episode, isn't it? We're going to have a good time here. We will spin some positives out of this, with the big one, of course, being we've been here before. 3 years in a row, they've started out with a real dud, and things have went all right after that. So we'll get to it. My big issue here, where was the fire with this team today? Where was the, hey, our guy's back. We got number 9 back. We got some new pieces on defense. Von Bell's back. Everyone's having a good time. Dax Hill seems to have found a new role. Trey Hendrickson's out there. Sam Hubbard seems healthy, maybe. Where was the want? Because New England went out there and they played with their hair on fire. They played like a team that was a 9-point underdog. They played like a team that everyone in the world was picking to lose by 2 scores. The Bengals played like a team. They were going out there. I mean, the Bengals genuinely showed more fire in their joint practices this offseason during training camp than they did on Sunday in that first half. Second half, obviously, a little better. But guess what? There are 4 quarters, 2 halves in an NFL game if you're new here. And the Bengals only showed up for one of those halves, and we saw how that went. Like I said, New England doesn't have any names. Who can you name on that team? Ramondre Stevenson, because you play fantasy football? Look, do you know, think about this for a second. Do you remember, assuming if you're listening to this, you watched the game, who led New England in receiving on Sunday? Who was it? It was Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper, the former Browns and Falcons tight end. 2 catches for 31 yards. If you would have told me before the game, hey, New England's leading receiver is going to have 2 catches for 31 yards, Bengals by 20. I mean, they've got no one. No one. I mean, Jabril Peppers on defense, Bentley on defense. Don't get me wrong, they have a lot of solid guys. But to be a team that considers itself a serious Super Bowl contender, as we all think the Cincinnati Bengals are, and I certainly hope they feel the same way, to have a team with no star power whatsoever. They have solid players, sure. They don't have any stars, right? They have no stars on that team. And they just come into your house and push you around. Maybe the era of stars is going away. Maybe we're going back to the 50s. You just need big dudes bringing their lunch pails in, because that's what New England had on Sunday. Headlined by Jacoby Brissett and Ramondre Stevenson. Came in there. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, that guy was on wheels. He was like a Jedi version of Rudy Johnson in his prime. It was ridiculous, just barreling over guys. They knew it was coming and they couldn't stop it. Hey, Jacoby Brissett wasn't doing anything, dinking and dunking over the middle. Jacoby Brissett's an awesome journeyman quarterback. I think everyone likes him. But he wasn't beating you with his arm. You knew the Cincinnati Bengals knew what was coming at them and couldn't stop it anyways. I mean, how does that happen? How on earth does that happen? That's why I said not to bet them the other day. I mean, New England, to their credit, they should have been a fired-up team. They're an NFL team, and they've been told for weeks and weeks and weeks they're going to suck this year. They're a 2-score underdog. Everyone on NFL Network picks them to lose by double digits. Good for them. Go have a freaking parade. You deserved it. You came out and showed effort, which is kind of key to a lot of things in life, especially at the highest level, especially in the NFL. And you just didn't seem to see a lot of that on Sunday, and here we are. Now, I will say the Bengals obviously hung around, but this game came down to 2 plays. Bengals all of last year, all of 2023 lost 2 fumbles. That's very good. Best in the league last year. On Sunday, they lost 2 fumbles, and they lost them in the worst possible spots. We saw the Tanner Hudson fumble early on, right? That was, I mean, that right there, he's marching in there for a touchdown. I'm trying to think what the score was at that point. But at any rate, that takes a touchdown off the board. So the Bengals are trailing at the half. It's 10-0. They come out. The defense, again, Cam Taylor-Britt lays the wood on someone. It looks like, okay, they woke up at halftime. They're going to come out here and do something. And they do. The defense forces a 3-and-out. They punt to Charlie Jones. He fumbles it at his own 20, 22, whatever it was. New England gets another field goal just like that. It's 13-0. I mean, those 2 plays, that's a 10-point swing. That is a 10-point swing. 10 points is a lot in an NFL game. This isn't Ohio State and Western Michigan. That's a lot in an NFL game. Those 2 plays right there, man, killers. I mean, we all know turnovers in general are killers. 2 turnovers inside the 25-yard line. Killer. So, came down to those 2 plays. I mean, Tanner Hudson owned up to it in the locker room afterward. I don't know if Charlie Jones talked. I did not see anyone talk to him. Someone might have. I don't know. But those 2 plays absolutely kill you. And I will say, too, because we talk a lot about, or there was a lot of talk about leading up to this, how the Bengals have sucked in these season openers, got mauled by the Browns last year, got in the wonky game against Pittsburgh the year before they lose. So this is their 3rd straight loss in a season opener. All 3 times they've been favored. So do they start out slow? Is the training camp regimen not right? I don't know. Obviously, they start out slow. They start out limping. They start out looking like, they got thrown off the top of the stadium before they came in. But this year felt different in that in the other 2 games, there were reasons. There were reasons things didn't go well. I can't find a reason for this one. 2 years ago against Pittsburgh, I mean, the special teams was insane. Pittsburgh got some lucky, imagine that, Pittsburgh getting lucky, some lucky tip balls that turned into interceptions, those sort of things. I think, those like a combined, between the missed field goals and extra points at the end of that thing, that's just Pittsburgh getting lucky. That's what they do. I don't know what they did in the past life, but the football gods seem to love them. And then last year, Joe Burrow is hobbled. It's pouring rain in Cleveland. He's got to play for the first time in months in a monsoon. Okay, you can kind of make some excuses there. Make some reasons, I should say. Not excuses, because those are reasons. There were reasons where you could say, man, in the NFL, you get a couple bad breaks, this is what happens. This year, I can't find one. I mean, the Jamar stuff off the field, again, who on New England is stopping anyone? Jamar had 6 catches for 62 yards. Not a terrible day, but they're just doubling him up. They're just daring the Bengals to run the ball, and they didn't. They decided instead of run, let's throw little screens and slants and stuff over the middle that really didn't work out. So, yeah, there's just no excuse for this one. No excuse for this one. Yeah, T. Higgins is out. Again, so what? The Bengals still have, if you're making a list today of the top 10 players on the field between Cincinnati and New England, just off the top of my head, the Bengals probably have 7 of them, right? Burrow, Chase, no doubt about those ones. You got Trey Hendrickson in there. Cam Taylor-Britt's in there. Right there's 4. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know everything about the New England Patriots, but I can promise you the Bengals have more talent. They were playing at home under a coach who's a veteran against a first-time head coach. That was the other thing. Like, I get Jacoby Brissett. He can go out there on any given Sunday and sling it and get you where you want to go. Gerard Mayo's never coached a game before. And he goes up against a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And I know that's a long time in the NFL, 3 years ago. But, I mean, most of the key pieces are still intact. Again, it's week one. It's week one. That's the good news. Bengals have sucked in week ones. They've sucked in week twos. And things have been okay. So there was just a lot I didn't like today. There was a lot. Again, in the past, there were things that would happen where you would say, okay, I can see why that would happen. Today was not one of those days. Today was a what the hell has happened? The old Vince Lombardi clip. What the hell's going on out here? That's what it was. So, yeah, 0-1. That's how the Bengals start. There's some goods to take out of it. We'll get into the goods. We'll get into the bad. That's my long opening rant. Those are just the things that I made little bullet points here, and I'm like, I got to get them. I'm sure there's a million. I'm going to lay in bed tonight. There's going to be stuff I missed. My wife is going to feel heat and anger pouring off of me and go, what's wrong? And I'll say, Dax Hill still can't tackle. That's what's wrong. I'll say some offensive linemen getting old. We need to have, there's some discussions that are going to need to unfold as well. We'll get into that in the later weeks. I also hated that punt at the end of the game. Like, at that point, I shouldn't say I hated it. But let's see what was going on there. The Bengals, I mean, they just went 3 and out. You got to get 5 yards to keep the drive alive or give it back. Give it back to your defense. It's been Ramondre Stevenson, who is apparently the birth child of, every great barreling running back, Jim Brown and Corey Dillon combined. You knew your defense couldn't stop him at that point in the game. Let Joe Burrow get 5 yards. Keep the drive going. I don't know. I was okay with the punt at the time, but looking back on it, it's like, of course they're going to go get the first downs. They're this pumped up. You're giving it back to them. They got a chance to bury this. Yeah, that's what they've done all day. Pushed you around all day. Of course they're going to go get it. Week one. It's week one. Maybe they're playing the long game. Bill Belichick kind of was famous for that. Bill Belichick, Zach Taylor, same people. And I like Zach Taylor, but maybe something needs to change. I mean, it's not with him. I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm saying you got to find a way. And, he's more disappointed than any of us, but I don't know. The good news is, again, the Bengals have been in this position before, and hopefully they learned a lot today that they can use to be better. Simple as that, right? So playing the long game, maybe this leads to them, kind of dialing it up. It gosh darn well better lead to them dialing it up as they head into week 2, where, by the way, they play a pretty decent team that resides in Kansas City. We'll get into that more later in the week. We'll get into that more later in the show. I told you we're going to do game balls every week. Who do we give it to this week? Who gets the game ball? Who is a good player? Well, there fortunately was someone, and it is someone who actually kind of excites me because this position has been one of need for a few years now, and that's the undrafted punter Ryan Rico. Jay Morrison, who does an excellent job covering the team. I should have pulled up the tweet. But anyways, Ryan Rico, Jay put this out there. He set a record today for gross punt yardage average in a game, minimum 4 attempts at 64.5 yards a punt. He set a Bengals franchise record with an 80-yard punt today. Dude has an absolute missile for a leg. And if for whatever reason you're just dropping in here and you don't follow the Bengals, punter's been an issue now. Brad Robbins, they drafted last year. He's on IR with an injury to his hip, and which is vital for a punter. And Rico was hot and cold in the preseason. He's going to get at least 2 more weeks to try to steal this job from Brad Robbins. And today was an exciting day because, he flipped the field. With the way New England was running the ball, you could make a good argument. His kicks probably kept at least a field goal off the board, at least made it, with the way the Patriots were running the ball, I kept thinking that once the game got going, because we saw Rico, we would see him do this in the preseason. He would have some really good kicks and then a shank out of nowhere. So fortunately, no shanks today, and he looks solid. And I know it's goofy to give a game ball to a punter, but in this case, man, if this kid can come close to doing going forward what he did against New England today, it really is a big deal for the Bengals. I know punter's not a fun topic to talk about, but if you can flip the field like that, if the Bengals, have to punt from their own 16 in New England next weekend, and he can put Patrick Mahomes and company back at the 20, that's a big deal, man. That's a really big deal. So game ball goes to him. It would have made sense. That first punt of his, I was thinking, man, he seemed nervous at times during the preseason. What's going to happen here? But he was fine. So good for him. Happy to see it. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm trying to check to see if I'm in focus, and I'm checking my hair out now at this point too. I've got the new background stuff up behind me. So do we call it a studio? No, it's really just a table with some cool things behind me. But you could call it a studio. There's all the stuff here. But at any rate, Ryan Rico, congratulations. You get the week 1 in the jungle game ball. For that, you will receive, we're not giving anything out, but we might eventually if we get some people to give us some stuff. That'd be cool, huh? All right, the next segment we're going to do, it's called Hit, Fold, Stay. It's named after blackjack. It sounds a lot cooler on paper than it does coming out of my mouth, I'm sure, but we're going to do hit. So things we want to keep doing, things we like. Give me more of this. Zach Moss. Thought we didn't get to see him in the preseason. He was going to play that first game. He ends up out sick. Today he has 9 carries for 44 yards. That's 5 yards a pop and a touchdown. 2 catches for 17 yards. The thing I liked is on some of those short yardage situations where it might not look good in the box score because it's maybe a 2-yard carry. It was like 2 or 3 times he put the head down and he said, I'm getting this. I wish they would have gave him the ball more early. He did take some time to warm up, I guess, but he really seems, Zach Moss, the free agent who came over from Indianapolis and previously played in Buffalo, he seemed like a guy that, he's willing to put his nose in there and get the extra yardage, and that's what beat the Bengals today. I wish they could have did more of that to New England because, again, 5 yards a pop. Hit that play fake, let one rip to Jamar, because that's really the reason they couldn't get the deep balls going is because New England was just saying, please, we don't think you can run the ball, throw the ball, and that's why Joe kept having a dink and duck the whole time. So we'll hit on Zach Moss. We'll keep that train rolling and see where it goes. Fold. I think this one's obvious today. We got to fold on this whole defensive line. Just whatever you're doing right now, it's got to be better. And the talent, that's the thing. Is Sam Hubbard? I talked about this last week. These guys are getting older. This is an old defensive line. They'll all be 30 by the start of next season or older. Sam Hubbard's been dinged up. We love him. He's awesome. Cincinnati kid who comes to play for him. Trey, they got to get to the quarterback more. And look, pressures are great. But, this team misses DJ Reader. He's a tough guy to replace. And Sheldon Rankins, I know he wants to be the run stuffer that DJ Reader is. But it didn't look like that today. And again, same thing with BJ Hill. BJ Hill's really good. He will always be a guy who the Bengals made a great trade for when they flipped Billy Price for him. But when you're not beside DJ Reader, getting 2 guys on you, suddenly things become a little more difficult. And Trey Hendrickson had some pressures today, but the defensive line's got to, I'm talking about running the ball here. Jacoby Brissett, all due respect, the Bengals are going to have to go through much more mobile and much tougher quarterbacks to face going forward. They got to figure something out because if other teams get running the ball or do run the ball like Ramondre Stevenson did today, things aren't going to go well. The Bengals are pretty much going to have to say, hey, we got to go score points so that the team can't run the ball as much, and that didn't look like an option today. So defensive line, we got to fold what you're doing right now. We got to get back to something better. Oh, by the way, the Patriots starting Michael Jordan today, not the Chicago Bull, the former Cincinnati Bengal, former Ohio State Buckeye, the one who got barreled over in Joe's rookie season that, made the injury happen. And Michael Jordan, obviously it wasn't intentional. I hope the best for the guy. But he's not a very good offensive lineman. So just the fact that by NFL standards, obviously starting in an NFL game, he's really good by the standards of the entire world, but by NFL standards. Just the fact that he was called up from the practice squad to start for this offensive line in New England, and they still just push the Bengals around. Troublesome, man. Honestly, troublesome. Because again, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about New England because I don't, because I thought they would be like the rest of us. I thought they would be a blip on the radar. I thought they would be a pushover. I thought, all right, week 1, and then they're going to go 4-13, and we don't have to worry about them anymore. Not the case. And then, so we got hit, we got fold. This is new to me too. And then we got stay or stand, depending on what you say when you're playing blackjack. We're going to sit on this one and see what happens. The young receivers, Charlie Jones and Andre Yoshivas, I'm never going to say his name right, kind of expected more. I mean, what Yoshi have today? I should have wrote this down. I'll look it up. But, I kind of was thinking he was going to have a big ball out day. 3 catches for 26 yards. And he had the 4th and 2 catch that he didn't get there on. All right. And then Charlie Jones, 1 catch for 5 yards. I mean, Charlie Jones, we forget, was, a 3rd-round pick a year ago? God, I'm losing my mind. 3rd or 4th, somewhere in there. 4th-round pick, 131 last year. So, yeah, there's a big difference between a 4th and a 3rd. But still, it's week 1. It's week 1. They're still getting their feet wet. Obviously, Jones missed a lot of time, and Yoshi was awesome at times last year. I guess I just had really high expectations out of the gate for Yoshi, and he was pretty quiet today. He's pretty quiet against New England, so that didn't. But again, I'm not folding on him. We're gonna stand. We're gonna see what happens. But it's just kind of on my radar now. Again, he's a 6th-round pick from last year. The expectations have never been higher for a 6th-round pick. Maybe Antonio Brown, a fellow 6th-round pick years ago. I don't think the expectations could be much higher in year 2 for a 6th-round pick than they are for Yoshi this year in Cincinnati. So we're going to stand pat. Charlie Jones I throw in there just because, man, we were so excited to have him back as a punt returner, and then to see, just a terrible mistake today that really kind of killed the momentum that defense came out with in the first half. So that's where we're at. That's my little blackjack analogy segment. I'm trying to do more segments rather than just rant the whole time. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Shoot me a comment, whatever. And that's where we're at. It is funny as we get into one for the road here. Take one with you. All week, man. I went on a run this morning, and just being out and about, I'm sure you all have friends. You're so excited for the season to start. It was such a long morning. I'm nervous. I'm cooking stuff. I'm cleaning. I go on a run, just trying to get stuff to make the day go by because I can't wait for 1 o'clock to get here. And then by 1:25, you're ready to pull your hair out. You're ready to rip your eyes out. You're ready to put your face through a wall after so many weeks and months of excitement. It's what the NFL does for you. The good thing is, next weekend we'll do it all again. And I'll tell you what, if they go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, which kind of feels crazy to say after what we saw today, but I think we all know if we kind of take a deep breath, that's a real possibility. If they can do that, then suddenly, things turn around. Suddenly the Super Bowl is back on. Suddenly those tickets are getting booked to New Orleans once again. So, hang in there. This is a bit therapy part of the show. Maybe one for the road will just be therapy going forward, because based on today, we all need it. We all need to let out a little sigh, take in a deep breath, and do what we can do. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, you now have an angry team going into Kansas City next week. You've got a team, at least I hope they're angry. They should be angry. They're embarrassed by that. I promise you that. I promise you that they're embarrassed by that. And I'll tell you, if you're a Chiefs fan, if you're a reasonable Chiefs fan, you're sitting there thinking, man, why couldn't they have just rolled over them? Why do we have to get an angry team? It wouldn't matter if it was the Bengals or whoever, and the Bengals have been on the other side of this where, they get the Steelers in week 13, and in week 12, the Steelers get embarrassed by, some Trent Dilfer or someone like that at quarterback. So I'm going back years now, obviously. But Bengals should be fired up, and it's a good time to be fired up because A, you need to be, and B, you're going into your biggest rival in the last few years this week, and they're pretty good. So they need it. All right, my throat's killing me. I don't know why. It just is. So I'm not going to talk much more. I don't have much more to say. I'm sure I do, but I I could go on all night. This is one of those nights where I'd like to have someone else to talk to, because then it would be really a little more therapeutic. But it's hard to book people, and it's 10:16 at night on a Sunday. Most people have lives. Not me, man. This is it. That's not true. I have way too much to do. Anyways, if you like the show, give it a rating, give it a subscription, subscribe on YouTube, watch it, do whatever you want, tell a friend about it. It'll be fun. I promise the season will get better. We're at a low point. We hit the low point early this year. So I'm at Matt Edwards on Twitter. Twitter was, ablaze today. Just a bunch of angry people. Angry people. Usually, we won't get into that. But all that fun stuff. Kansas City, game of the year, already here, mid-September. So we'll do that one next week. I'll have an episode out on Friday, I think. Sometimes it'll be, we'll just put that out there. Sometimes it'll be late Thursday night. Sometimes it'll be early Friday morning. So one of the two. Look for them. And, next one will be out. We'll get ready for the Chiefs. We'll take some deep breaths. We'll have a couple bourbons. We'll chill out, and we'll be all right. So I'm Matt Edwards. This podcast is called In the Jungle, a podcast mostly about the Cincinnati Bengals. Hope you enjoy it, having fun with it, and we'll do it again. We'll keep trucking. 0-1, nowhere to go but up, baby. Bengals will be back at Kansas City this Sunday, a 4:25 kick for your weekend planning purposes, by the way. We'll do it up. If they get to 1-1, all is well again. We'll be all right. All right, appreciate you tuning in. I'm Matt Edwards. We'll see you again later this week.